Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You can see my face and hear my voice. It is time once again for the worst 120 minutes or so in all of sports podcasting. That's right, I'm Mike, and it's time once again for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. I'm joined as I am each and every week by my faithful companion in all things broadcasting, producer Stead. How goes it, sir?
Going pretty good. Going pretty good. Yeah. Picking our licks this winter. The shows have been difficult to get because life keeps getting in the way. But I'm really glad to get another episode up, get another recording in there, keep the trains
I'm not
moving.
gonna lie. I've been sick as a dog for the last like 2 weeks.
Bro, it's been getting everybody. I
Hmm.
mean, over the holidays, everyone in the family was sick except me. Everybody was sick. Both my kids, my wife, struggling.
Yeah, it was bad. So this is
Hmm.
the first, week I woke up today and I didn't have a really bad sore throat or serious congestion or something like that. It was
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
And so I was appreciative of a little break just so I could get able to talk again. Not that I wouldn't have done the show, but it's nice to be back in that something near fighting strength.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, I
Absolutely.
will say, and before we get into the soccer, I will say none of this stopped me from watching rugby.
Oh, no. I mean, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Um,
We have to
it
get
was,
another rugby show up. We have to do another one.
yeah, we do. I may throw a short up tomorrow or Friday. I know Cam's
Yeah.
out of town, but if not this week, definitely next week as we go into the last two rounds of the tournament.
Right.
But a quick recap: Ireland looked really good.
Yeah.
Finn Russell and Duhan Vandermeer are weapons, and part of the reason why Scotland looks like the second best team in the tournament. Wales are young. Warren Gatland shot his mouth off about regional rugby in Wales, which has upset a lot of people in that structure.
Hmm.
But he's been known to do that. You knew what you were getting when you came. And France is lucky that they're not playing, that they
They
are
look,
not rock bottom.
it's
Because
unbelievable. And I'm kicking myself for having actually had any inkling that they were going to be able to win this tournament. They have
well,
not,
I
they
think
have,
you had the same inkling that I did, which was that, okay, yeah, they're missing Antoine Dupont, but they should have enough firepower to get past
right,
this. This is a
right,
team that played South Africa to a single point.
right.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they still have a lot left in them. This is basically the same roster minus Dupont.
Hmm.
They've got the coach. I know that there's some World Cup hangover, but you got to shake that off.
Right.
Blessed reason why they are pretty much two referee errors away from being 0-3. And
Absolutely.
um, that's try against Scotland at the very end of the game was a try. I don't care what the refs say. I saw
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it is. It's a try. It's a try. They couldn't keep them out. They couldn't. But still, Scotland
and
had dominated that game. Just dominated that game. They just couldn't score. Just couldn't
and the
score enough points. Yeah.
penalty kick at Italy, if you watch it against Italy, that penalty should have been retaken
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they encroached, they never reset, which you can't do. And even weirder was, did you see the medical support guy with the water bottles just kind of wandering around in the field of play
Yeah, he got the
while the kick
field.
went up?
Yeah, get off the field. Yeah, that was really odd. It was really odd. And it was even more odd considering that that's usually it's a pretty well officiated game. I would say that these things shouldn't happen like this.
But that was baffling. I was talking to a bunch of rugby friends of mine, and I was like, I've never seen anything like that. I went back and watched like pretty much every free penalty kick I could see from either side, and I never saw anything even close to that.
Mhm.
There's a medical support guy on the kicking team because he carries the tee out and he has to retrieve it after they kick the ball. But I've never
Mhm.
seen the opposition guy just kind of wandering around in the middle of the field while play's going on.
Absolutely.
And I want to know
Yeah.
how the ref didn't see him because the ref walked right by him
Yeah. I've never seen anything like that before either. I mean, never
in
seen anything
any
like that.
sport.
Yeah, I was just about to say that in any sport. Never seen anything like that.
It's
I
like when
mean,
the only thing that comes close is I remember a snow game that I think the Dolphins or the Cowboys were playing. Maybe they were playing against each other, and there was a bunch of snow on the field, and the plow driver just kind of like drove weirdly out in the middle of the field,
yeah,
trying to like clear a path,
I think that was the Patriots game.
pseudo
Yeah,
accidentally.
right. Yeah. In fact, I believe there was that happened once before. Actually, one of the coaches kind of went by him and was like, "Hey, man, like go." It's like just like send him out there, and then the guy's like, "Okay, let's go clear some path." It's the only time you ever see anything like that. So that was very odd. Yeah, I don't understand that, but it's clear that Ireland's kind of running away with this thing. So we'll see. And Scotland play Ireland, I believe, next.
No,
No,
Scotland
no,
play
that's the final
Ireland the
game,
last
Scotland and
game,
Ireland. Yeah,
and
and I'll say this, it's kind of cool to at least have the two best teams play each other at the end when we thought we were getting the two best teams that are playing each other at the beginning, but it seems as if Scotland is you said they were good and but they had some pangs they needed to work out, but they seem to be playing really well. And outside of that, you know, the Scotland England game, they just took it
Mhm.
to them, and to see Scotland not play in a manner where they seem like they're just trying not to lose and just trying to hang on, to actually go out there and just keep pounding that ball in there was really really fun to watch. Really fun to watch. And I haven't picked my team yet as far as my rugby team that I'm really going to be following, but that was fun to watch. And I know Cam would love if I pick Scotland. And and I'm not saying I won't, but it was very, very enjoyable to see. That was a fun game to watch.
It was. I just don't think right now that Scotland have the depth and consistent quality across
I was going to say they
23
just don't.
guys.
Yeah, they don't seem as consistent. They don't seem consistent enough. And this is from a lay rugby fan who's they. I'll tell you this though, the other sports I watch are on notice. They're on notice because they have rugby sevens now. I love sevens. Sevens is so fun to watch because the games are so quick and they're not a long clock game. I wouldn't be surprised if very soon, there's only so many hours in the day, man. And I could easily see, and it's
Well,
on Peacock. I already got Peacock, so
well,
I
the
might be
club
watching
stuff,
it before this.
yeah, you can watch the internationals pretty easily. The club stuff takes a little bit more, and I will say that the
Mm.
club stuff that I've been watching with a little bit more regularity is not nearly as good as the international.
And that's expected. That's expected. But the fact that you have rugby league, a rugby union, you got rugby sevens, there's all these different kind of tournaments going on. It's very easy to kind of get your rugby fix and
One way or
not
the
have
other.
to one way or the other, not to completely dial into the club game. And I know that France has a good club league, and I have watched Premier League rugby in England quite a
Well,
bit. So
France, Scotland,
mm,
Ireland, Wales, and South Africa all play in one league, the Pro 14, and
mhm,
just that rugby just hasn't been as it's not the same style as what you see in the
mhm,
international game, particularly in the Six Nations.
mhm.
That's just what I'll say. It's good to watch. I enjoy it. It's just not as it just feels like the level is a bit different, right?
Understood. Understood.
And
Yeah.
so,
Well, there's the game. It's a popular game, but I guarantee it's not easy to field large leagues in a national setting with enough quality players, especially the number of players that just play it at one time. For union, you got 30 guys on the. It's a lot. It's a lot of
mhm,
guys. It's a lot of
yeah.
players. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the where you get the look at the next guys. I mean, been able to watch Jack Crowley for Ireland play for
Hmm.
Munster a couple of times and was able to see what he was going to be like before he got out there. And that's a
Hmm.
kid that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
You've got Owen Farrell and Sia Khaleesi all going to Racing 92
Hmm.
in France, so that's going to be a fun team to watch. Rochelle is the two-time defending um, European Cup champions. Leinster is basically what they say. They call them Ireland and blue. because the bulk of the starting lineup for Ireland plays for Leinster, which is
Mm,
one of the reasons why Ireland is so effective, is because basically you're taking one team.
yeah.
It's like the old Spanish team
All
back in the
Spain, yeah, where there was 6 Real, 6 Barcelona guys, and then
yeah,
a couple
basically.
of Valencia dudes in there, and that was about it.
They're used to playing with each other because that's what they do every
Mm,
day, week in and
uh-huh.
week out.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears and go to soccer a little bit. We got Byron Rob coming up in a second, but uh, before we go into that, it's back after a longer than necessary hiatus. Sunderland Till I Die is back.
That's right. Right. Season 3, finally. I haven't, I'm not going to even, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until it fills up
Mhm.
and I know I can get, like, there's going to be a day where my house is going to be to myself, or I'm going to be able to hide in a room for about 6 hours, and I'm just gonna binge. I'm gonna binge this show till no end. I'm just gonna binge because the best part is we were talking about this years ago and how whether or not they should do a season 3, and the fact that they were able to get a good, because the first 2 seasons inevitably were kind of sad in the end. At least we look at how the fall of the club, and to see the club start to swing the other way and get a season in is great. It's great. I think this is a top 5 sports documentary, not just series, but just sports documentary for me. This is a top 5. I don't. It sucked me in. Everybody I've told to watch this, it's drawn them in, and these aren't even soccer fans, but they couldn't help it. They had to keep turning it on. So I'm glad they got another season in.
It's such a weird one because it's like I'm not gonna lie, I kind of enjoyed a little bit more than I like Welcome to Wrexham.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like Welcome to Wrexham is a little bit more centered on the owners than it is
Mhm.
necessarily the team, where this is
Right.
about the team and the community and all
Right.
that sort of stuff.
Right.
But I also feel like this is one of those ones where it's like you can't make this up. You really can't make this up. And every time I think like they have figured it out where it's like it can't get any more baffling,
Mhm.
like it just does. So now the new owner is um the son of a French billionaire family.
Mhm.
Like they run Deloitte. It's the Louis Dreyfus clan.
Mhm.
And he's like in his 20s and he's taking over this team and he's got a boatload of dad's money.
Mhm.
And his dad used to own Marseille, and now he's taken over this club in Sunderland, and it was basically an impulse buy.
Right.
But somehow, right now, I guess they love him because he's got him up to the championship, and they're 10th in
Mhm.
the championship as we
Yeah.
stand. We'll talk to Mikey a little bit more.
Yeah,
He's
and they
got him up.
finished 6th last season. They were actually, and I think they qualified for the playoffs. So, they're
Mhm.
back to being the Sunderland that we all know. And they have a great stadium. I mean, it is.
But
It's just
it's
a
just you can't make this stuff up, and I'm waiting
no.
for something to go wrong in ownership, them to turn on ownership because that seems inevitably what they do.
It is inevitable. It is, sadly, it is inevitable. But hopefully they can at least. I mean, hopefully they ready the ship to get. I mean, Sunderland they were not. I don't want to say they were a yo-yo team, but they were consistently in the Premier League for quite a while.
I think
And
they were in the Premier League for like almost a decade. They
yeah,
were one of the worst Premier League teams when
of
they
course,
played, but they
right.
had that one season, and then Roy Keane got them back up,
Hmm.
and they were managed to stick and stay for quite a while.
Hmm.
And I often wonder while I'm watching that show, like if I had the money to buy them and run them, would that be a solid investment? And it's like because you feel like it's what you would expect as an American. Like they are a loyal fan base, but they're not going to show up if the team is bad.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But if
Yeah.
you have a decent team and you field a good product, you will have loyal supporters. The stadium will be sold out. It will be loud. They will
Hmm.
buy shirts. They will
Hmm.
support it.
Hmm.
but then you also worry it's like one bad step, one wrong move, and they
Yeah.
will turn on you like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I am. Yeah, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for this to finish, and then I'm gonna binge this one. I'm not a big binge watcher either. I get bored really quickly, but I'm gonna binge this one because I binged the first two. I did. I'm not gonna lie. I watched the first two seasons because I watched the first one as
Well, that
season
was
two.
COVID.
Yeah, I have a at the and during COVID though, don't forget, I had a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, so I didn't have any free time during COVID. So when I did, I was like, I'm gonna watch this as much as I can. I'm staying until 4 a.m. because I just don't want to go to bed because the sooner I go to bed, the sooner it's the next day, and I have to deal with my responsibilities all over again. I'm trying to entertain two young kids during COVID. I'm telling you, man, all parents who had little kids during COVID, we all deserve a week off of life. If you had little kids during COVID, you deserve a week off of life in general. 'Cause, man, that was tough. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
All right, let's go from one soap opera to another and welcome in Byron Rob to talk a little bit about the Haps in Germany. Um, it was teetering last time we spoke, Rob. It has fully and truly gone off the rails now. Uh, at one point, it was three straight losses uh, that saw them basically concede the lead to Bayer Leverkusen, and they're on the brink in the Champions League. And now the announcement that Thomas Tuchel is going to leave at the end of the season. Let's start with the news that they're gonna wait until the end of the season to let Tuchel go. It wasn't an immediate fire. This reeks to me of we didn't have any better option that was available at the time, but we know we don't want to keep going like this. There's going to be a rebuild in the off season, but we I can't get over the fact that I feel like if with Tuchel, given his penchants for self-destruction, that retaining him and putting him in a situation where he basically has no authority because everybody knows that he's not going to be there next year, and he knows that he's not going to be there next year. Um, this can, if it hadn't already been teetering on the brink of implosion and kind of been going down, this can go down in a spectacular way over the remaining couple of months of the season.
Yeah, so it's weird, you know. Bayern have done a couple things here. They've rid the boogeyman. They got rid of him, but not really. And now it's on the players to say to like really fight for their jobs because now they're trying out for the new manager. Um, and so you could tell like Thomas Tuchel looked a little freer. Like him and Thomas Muller were like laughing on the sideline um, this past weekend, which is like rare. Usually Thomas Muller is like the manager destroyer. You know, you piss off Thomas Muller, you're gone. If Thomas Muller likes you, you stay. And so, you know, and then I think like it's really interesting because Thomas Tuchel has destroyed the chemistry of this team. But at the same time, like the players have been performing performing awfully, to put it like bluntly. And some of it is not Thomas Tuchel's fault. Like Alfonso Davy has been a shell of himself for almost 2 seasons. Like ever since he broke up with Jordan Hightower, or they broke up, who knows the story with that? He's been nothing. He's been like he hasn't. It's almost like they found him out. They planned for him, and now he's not effective anymore. Yeah, every once in a while you'll see him have spurts. Um, the center back's been weird. Open McConnell's been prone to mistakes, and then for some reason, you know, like he can't do what he did at Leipzig. Um, and then this is the Tuchel problem. Tuchel has totally ostracized Matthias Elite, and now he's back. He's sort of had a plan because Open McConnell was out on red card accumulation. I mean, he got a red card. Um, So, but at the same time, I think it buys Bayern some time because I don't think they were going to get anybody suitable that wanted the job for 3 months, 4 months. Nobody wanted it. And I think they were like, Tuchel, you can just rent it out, And also, I think at the same time, Bayern save a little bit of money because it's a mutual agreement that the contract is over. Tuchel's going to leave. Bayern's going to cut his ties, and they're not going to pay him for the last year. So if they fired him, they have to not only find a new manager, they have to pay him for next season as well. So now I think the league's sort of done. Now all we have is Champions League, and who knows with that because we're out down 1-0 on Lazio. So I mean we'll go back to the Allianz, but still, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. This team might play freer. I mean they won. They beat Leipzig, but it's not the Leipzig that we know. This is Leipzig that appears mortal. Not like past season where they were very dangerous. I mean, they have players, but they just, they didn't perform. Like they have like one great player, with the Xavi Simmons, who's on loan to Leipzig from PSG, and that's really. I mean, Openda's really good, but like he needs service, and Danny almost been trash for this whole season. He's been injury prone as well, so that has not helped. So I mean, it's a win against Leipzig, but was it really that difficult? But at the same time, they lose to Bochum. Like Bochum's, look, we love them. They're our friends, but it's Bochum, and we lose to Bochum. Like so, yeah. I mean, we're kind of in purgatory here as Bayern fans. It is he's here, but he's not going to be here. So we just had to put up with it for another couple months, and then he goes bye. So yeah,
How
it's
much
kind
of
of a
this
weird
is
feeling.
now? I remember saying like I did not think when they hired him that this was going to end well, and that's just looking at Tuchel's track record. Like it doesn't tend to end well with him. How much of this season does Tuchel deserve the blame for? You talked about he came in, he um messed with the team's chemistry. He's isolated players. They feel like there's been a lack of communication with the players. They feel like there's been a lack of communication with the front office. These are all very well-known tendencies of Thomas Tuchel. These are all things that he's known to do. This was a team that won, albeit was gifted last year, and just has not seemed to be able to get it together this year. How much of it is on Tuchel? How much of it is on the front office? Because this is a team that, while it does have some quality young players, does have some very strong senior personalities who probably need to be moved on.
I think Tuchel deserved the majority of the blame, maybe up to 75%. But you have to remember the biggest issue was that Bayern typically plan ahead, um, well in advance. Like for example, like when they signed Renato Sanchez before his breakout Euros, like that's the type of move that Bayern does. They figured all that stuff out early on. They could not do that last season. Um, Before the last match day, they fired Hazan Salihamidzic and Oliver Kahn. Oliver Kahn had to throw a hissy fit, and he was not invited to the stadium. Brado, the Bayern man, he was okay with his firing, and he took it professionally, and he was allowed to stay for the celebrations and for the trophy lifts and everything. But then there was chaos. Who was in charge? No, who like all the plans that Brazo and Khan had, that's goes out the window. Now, like this one guy, I forget his name. He was gonna retire, and they had to force him to come back. Like, hey, we need someone to run the team for a little bit. And then they had to bring in, Romanega back. They had to bring in Uli Hoeneß back to do something. Then they had this weird like transfer committee that Tuchel was a part of. And they didn't, so they didn't have like a sporting director. They didn't have like a manager per se, like a manager like not like a coach, but like a manager, um, who does the signings and stuff. And they didn't have any of that. And so this, I mean, Harry Kane was the obvious signing, right? I mean, and me, you and I could have said we needed Harry Kane or someone like a Harry Kane who wanted to come here. But other than that, the squad planning has been piss poor. Um, and that's a Bayern problem. I mean, it's very un-Bayern like to have that much chaos that's affecting the transfer window. We had a chance at Paulinho who would have solved the quote unquote six problem because apparently Joshua can't make it down to six. And or doesn't want to play like a six in general. That fell through, and we got then we the one player that probably could have played in the midfield, Gravenberg, we shipped him off to Liverpool. Um, we had problems at right back, and we shipped Stanisic to Leverkusen on loan. And now we had to buy a right back from Turkey in the winter transfer window. And Stanisic would have been perfectly fine there right back. And so Tuchel's not fully at fault. I think it's the players, and I think the front office really hampered him. But at the same time, it's Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel did not adhere himself to, he once again, I always say the Bayern job is the statesman job. You have to protect ego, you have to protect the players. And you have to not get on players, in the press. You can't you can't blame anybody. Like, Pep Guardiola goes to the extreme to coddle his players in the press. I mean, I'm saying you have to do that, but Thomas Tuchel has thrown players under the bus, publicly, and that's not you don't do that with the egos of Bayern Munich. I'm sorry. And he lost people. He lost a dressing room with that. I know, like Harry Kane is one of his defenders still. I think by Harry Kane trying to be a good sport here. But he lost everyone. He lost Goretzka, he lost Kimmich. He probably lost Manuel Neuer, Thomas Muller to an extent. Leroy Sané could be indifferent. He's been out of it the last few weeks, but apparently he's nursing an injury. So Thomas Tuchel gets the majority of the blame, but it's not all his fault. He was set up for failure from the get-go. At the same time, the people in charge now, Thomas Tuchel is not their coach. They did not pick Thomas Tuchel. So they have to sort of deal with him as well. And now they don't. At least they only have to deal with him for a little while longer.
Because this is now 4 high-profile jobs that he's had in Dortmund, PSG, Chelsea, and now Bayern Munich. And they have all almost exactly ended the same way after the same amount of time. Has Tuchel basically ruled himself out of a major job and kind of done irreparable damage to his career? We know that he can be a great tactical manager, but I think the personality flaws that he exhibits hamper him to the extent where he's become a even more self-destructive version of Jose Mourinho.
You figured it's time for Thomas Tuchel to maybe go down a tear and work his way back up. But someone with big money bags in the Premier League is going to hire him. Like I know, like I didn't get the Chelsea job, but look, he won Champions League with Chelsea. All right, he gets credit for that. All right,
But then immediately, that's the thing.
Yeah.
He won Champions League. He went to a champion. He took PSG to their only Champions League final. He will win you stuff. There's no doubt about that he is capable of winning you stuff, but he will isolate players. He will implode. And it seems like every time it ends with somebody having to say, look, it's not us, it's you.
yeah,
Bowley and the guy that Chelsea said they tried to work it out with him, and he just did his own thing. He'll look at the transfers and say, I'm going to isolate this player or that player. And it just seems like it's counterproductive behavior that seems so unnecessary. You almost want to put a arm around him and say, like, dude, I love you to death. You're a brilliant guy, but you really need to sit down and talk to somebody.
Yeah, but the Premier League, for example, and you know how I feel about the Premier League, and you just throw money at players who I frankly don't deserve it just because they have it. The Premier League is full of owners who say, I could fix him. And I guarantee you're going to get somebody, a city, for example. Let's just say a city, right? A city when Pep goes. I don't know when they're happening. United, perhaps, if
I can't see him working with United, and that was
yeah.
one that had been around. Like, would he go to United, and how is he going to react to? This is a guy who wants his players, he wants things to be his way, and he's going to react to an ownership group that was going to dictate how and what players were bought. So you weren't going to have control over your transfers. At minimum now, he's going to have to deal again with an ownership group that is going to expect you to answer for certain things. I don't think that Ineos and the new board is going to look at him and see him as a viable candidate based on the evidence that you have. So I would
Yeah.
take
Yeah, but I'm telling you, there's someone in the Premier League who's going to throw money at him. Someone in the top echelon.
maybe Daniel Levy because he's been the one that is most likely to do it.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps, but like, let me tell you, like the fan base will go crazy if they fire Ange. I'm sorry,
But that's the
look,
thing. So
I never seen a fan base. Look, I mean, Spurs are flirting with top four. They're flirting, right? And they had a lot of injuries, but like even then, like Ange is like this figure that like he feels like you're okay with him in his arms, right? You're in his hands. He's good. He's good. He's one of those guys that like you can trust and just nuzzle up to him and be like he's going to take care of you. And if Ange gets sacked by Levy and Levy brings in the Wolf from Bavaria, aka Thomas Tuchel, then the fan base is going to go nuts. But I'm telling you, like I said, like look, the Premier League will make dumb decisions, and somebody will hire him. Like maybe not right away. I'm not saying like he's going to get right away, but look, mid-season next year, someone gets sacked. They need a player. Look who's available. Thomas Tuchel. He won a Champions League. You defend that to your fan base, right?
yeah,
So
but then I would say like, okay, he's no longer an option as a full-time. He's going to be around here and build a project. He's basically then become a interim option. He's the guy that you bring in to stabilize the ship, maybe help you get better. If it was a 6-month gig, I would take Thomas Tuchel in a second. Take him from January until May. He's gonna get you places. He's gonna do things with you in that time frame. But then I don't have to deal with him afterwards. I don't have to deal with him in the transfer window. I don't have to listen to him, and I haven't given him a chance to self-destruct because I guarantee you, like, there is enough evidence out there that within 18 months of taking a job, he will self-destruct. And guess where we're at? He's going to be out of a job in
yeah, no, and look,
months.
I no, and I get it. I understand that. I'm trying to tell you, these ownerships they don't think like you and I. They're disconnected from all that. They just think they can fix him. They see he won a trophy, a trophy they really love, and they say, you know what, we could do. He'll do better. He has learned. He has gotten better. He has learned. We're not Bayern Munich. We don't operate like that. All that stuff. Like, so I'm telling you, like, he will get another top tier job one day. Now, does he deserve it? Will he be a good fit for that one? I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. But people throw money at bad solutions, and
That I
despite
think he's
history,
got to do. I think he's got to go down. I think he's got to take. He's got to eat some crow. He's got to go down and take over.
like a
Uh,
Lyon or Marseille, something like
maybe
that.
not. Maybe he can come into the Premier League and maybe he can take over a team like Villa or Everton or something like that.
or like a Brighton.
Brighton, that's what I was
Brighton.
thinking. Mhm.
Brighton.
Yeah,
I don't think that Brighton would take him because I think he's going to want too much money.
yeah. They'll just charge
But
it.
he's got to take over, a team of that ilk.
I could see him taking a squad like Brighton if he's still getting the rest of his money paid out from the Chelsea firing and the Bayern firing. If he's still getting a pretty check from them, I could see him going, yeah, I can do this for a little while with the expectation that'll raise his profile to get another one of those big jobs again. I think that's the only way, though, I could see him taking a position like that.
Yeah,
Okay, well, how about a big name that's not in like like Roma or in Italy or an AC Milan or
Inter.
some Inter, something like that,
Mhm.
that where you're taking in a slightly fallen giant. Like Jose went to Roma,
Mhm.
and he
And
lasted
was
a couple
upset when they
years.
let him go. He was very upset. He wanted to stay.
There is a team. Napoli is desperately going to need a manager next year.
Mhm.
We don't know what's going on with Juve. I mean, these are still seemingly prestigious jobs, although I cannot imagine. Although I would love it if he went to Napoli. I would love it if he went to Napoli. Could you imagine the battles in between Thomas Tuchel and De Laurentiis?
It'd be fun.
Like the only thing that might match that for fireworks, like get your popcorn out, would be if he went to Spurs. And I know you said they're not getting rid of Ange, but him and Daniel Levy. Like this
One day, do you remember like the old Yankees, like when
Steinbrenner,
Steinbrenner, and I forget who that was, Billy
Billy
Martin.
Martin, where he
Yeah,
fired Billy
Martin, right?
Martin. He fired Billy Martin on the podium, and Billy Martin's like, "You haven't even hired me yet."
Yeah, you know what? We need like the football version of that. That's what we need. That'd be fantastic.
That would be him, and that would be him and De Laurentiis at Napoli. Um, let's go from the soap opera that is Bayern. I have a question for you. How good is Leverkusen?
They're good. I mean, the thing about it is you have great coaching, hungry coaching, by the way, hungry. Like he's like yearning for knowledge. Xavi Alonso is, he's gonna be a top tier manager, like top 3, top 5, over the next couple of years, if he's not already. He's getting there, he's up there. But at the same time, a lot of their youth have hit perfectly. They're on the rise. We're talking about Florian Wirtz. We're talking about Frimpong. We're talking about reclamation projects like Grimaldo. Patrick Schick, playing again. Boniface was having a blowout year until he got hurt. He'll be back in April. So they've had a combination of a team who is hungry to learn, great coaching, and the youth talent is working its way exactly as planned. That's exactly how they want. They've hit on all their youth players. And Javi Alonso has pretty much rescued Jonathan Tah's career. Jonathan Tah was almost going to be close to being a nobody center back. At one point he was starting for Germany primarily because there was no one else good enough, but then Jonathan Tah has become a player again under Javi Alonso. Then he got some good veteran players, Jonas Hoffman from Gladbach. He's done well in that system. They're good. The question is, can they stay good? Because remember, they're not, and they're playing Europe, but they're not playing Champions League, right? But and who they're going to lose? Frimpong's probably gone, but they're being like this is their year, and Leverkusen is very close to slashing their nickname of Neverkusen. They're on the verge of winning potentially 3 titles. They could go for the treble. I mean, it's not Champions League, but still, you get the point.
It's a treble.
It's a treble,
not
the treble. It's a treble.
A treble.
But no, look, a trophy, one trophy is like special for them. Imagine if they get 3, Xavi Alonso's going to have a statue built for him. You know,
Well, you brought up a good point. We know that when you see a team like this with a lot of young talent, that we saw this with Ajax, we've seen this with other teams. Once you see this, the vultures are out, and they're going to pick apart that squad, and it'll be good for Leverkusen insofar as they will get money. But we saw this before with Ajax. We saw this even to a certain extent with Leicester, where all of a sudden the Riyad Mahrezes and the guys like in the N'Golo Kantes, who are so critical to that squad, suddenly get picked off.
yep.
And then on top of this, you've got a younger manager in Xavi Alonso. Now, my question is, how easily can Xabi Alonso replicate what he did at Leverkusen at his next job, which I have to believe, given the jobs that are available, is going to come next year. It's almost impossible for me to believe, as good as the season as they have had, that he would and that he should. If they win one trophy, you could make the argument, okay, come back, let's win it again, let's win something else this year. But if they win multiple trophies, it doesn't get any better than that at Leverkusen, and especially when I already said that squad is going to be dissected. How easy is it going to be for him to go into a Liverpool, to go into a Real Madrid, to go into a Barcelona, a Bayern Munich, any of the teams that he's been connected to that are more high profile jobs, and replicate the success that he had?
So I actually think that if he wins one trophy, he's gone. Especially if it's a league, he's gone. And Leverkusen would say thank you. We rid ourselves of our curse. You know, go get riches. Now we've been told a couple of different things. We've heard that he has a list that he can opt out for jobs. We've also heard that there while there is a list, there is no out, like there's no like release. So anything will have to be negotiated as a buyout between whoever hires him or wants to hire him. Um, but honestly, the way Leverkusen have been working, they're only going to lose two players. They won't lose more than two. I think Frimpong probably easily gone because he has a low release clause, like 40 mil, and there was rumors that City were sniffing at him, and that might still happen. And I don't know if Florian Wirtz is going. I think he's too much. He's approaching almost 100 million territory, and there's not many teams that can afford that. Especially, like a Real Madrid, for example, that can not have room because they have to bring in Mbappe in. So obviously a Grimaldo might go, a Boniface might go as well. I think Granit Xhaka stays. He's been really good for the team, by the way. I know he had his up and downs in Arsenal, but man, he's been really good for Leverkusen. So no, I think Xavi Alonso really only needs one trophy. It's the league. If he wins the league, he's gone. And Leverkusen will I think they'll do just fine. I mean, they'll play in Champions League. I don't know how well they'll do win the league with Champions League involved, but they'll be really trying hard for it. At least put a face on it. Put an effort, I should say. So it's interesting. I mean, I want Xavi Alonso to stay at Leverkusen. I mean, I would love to have him at Bayern. Don't get me wrong. I think he loves the club. He's been at the club. He knows how it operates. But at the same time, it's really refreshing to see a team that had some guts to hire outside of the German system and take a chance on the player who, who's new to coaching. I mean, take a chance on a coach who's sort of new to the job, learning, hungry, and not from Germany. So it would be a shame to Leverkusen if Leverkusen, I know they're going to collect, because even though they're owned by a pharmaceutical company. They don't use pharmaceutical dollars for their sporting side. They kind of like to keep them separate. But I wish Javi Alonso would stay because I think it'd be really fun to see what he could do once Leverkusen sells some players. They invest more money with him, and then he get to see what this team could do at Champions League. Um, but I
I
think
just see that.
if
I think they're going to lose more players than they're giving a couple.
no,
I think
I think two max for the top players. They might lose an
I mean,
auxiliary player, but that's it.
well, Tapsoba is definitely gone too. If you've watched how he's played in Europe and his effectiveness as center back and almost a right back, I think he's gone. Frimpong's gone. Um, and then maybe some auxiliary players. Eventually, Kovar, the goalkeeper, is going to be gone too. He's not the number one right now, but he's another young guy that'll be gone, who's highly rated. They got some young kids there that are pretty well thought of, who have yet to be brought in. So over the next couple of years, like they could have an Ajax like run under Xabi Alonso in the Champions League, but this is a team that's really going to get picked apart over the next couple of years. And I just don't see how he can say no to a Liverpool or a Bayern Munich when they come calling, because it would really surprise me. I mean, it would really surprise me. This is this is I don't know how I can classify it. Like, to have the ability to make that move, he would really have to believe that he needs an extra year of coaching in the Champions League with little to no pressure to make the decision to stay, given the jobs that are going to be available this year. All right, Rob, give us some things that we should look out for in the Bundesliga this weekend.
This really only one top game. I mean, it's like a number two pick, but the top game for me is Union Berlin versus Dortmund. Union have been fighting their way to stay above the relegation zone. They've done a decent job. I mean, Brendan Erickson scored a couple weeks ago. For goodness gracious, like where had he been? Just rotted on the bench. And whenever he played, he's been awful. And then Dortmund, they need to win bad. They screwed the pooch hard against Hoffenheim. They should have easily won. They let Hoffenheim back in the game. They blew it. And to me, it's Dortmund really need a good win here, because if they don't get a good win, they got Leipzig sniffing. And Dortmund in the Champions League is just weird to have. They're fourth now. They're 6 points from Stuttgart in third. And they really need to solidify Champions League. So they need a win. They got to be Union Berlin. But Union's still fighting too. And honestly, look, between, 7th and 14th, which is where Union Berlin are at, it's only 5 points. So they can start making a run over here. If Union Berlin gets a decent run going and they get a little lucky, potentially they can sniff Europa Conference. Potentially, which would be a miracle for them. I mean, I think it's going to happen, but the mid table is tightening. So that's my top spiel of the week. And then the other one that's kind of neat to see, Wolfsburg and Stuttgart, primarily because Stuttgart, if they do well here, they can really put a stranglehold a little bit on maintaining a Champions League spot. I mean, my only problem is it's weird. You want to root for them to get Champions League, but I think they're going to do really poorly if they make Champions League next season. I mean, they just don't have. I don't think they have enough oomph and star power to really make an impact there. But it'd be nice for them to get the extra cash to subsidize their Mercedes-Benz and Porsche cash. So yeah, those are my top picks of the week. And tomorrow I actually taking Stead's advice, and I'm not taking a COVID trip per se, but I am taking a trip, and I'm going to Europe, and I'm watching a lot of football. So I'm excited. I'll be checking in with all y'all. I'm going to go see Ange at Spurs Stadium. I'm going to watch the Women's North London Derby at the Emirates. Watch a lot of Bayern. I'm probably gonna watch Bayern get knocked out of Champions League. Thank you, Thomas Tuchel. That'll be fun anyways. And then I'll watch some Bundesliga. So I'm excited. I'm pumped. So I'm gonna enjoy my trip and be a footy traveler for the
Yeah, it
next
sounds
week
like
or
a
so.
great trip. Sounds like a great trip.
It sounds like a great trip. I would be jealous, other than the fact that I know that you do this at least once a year.
You should
Not
you should,
necessarily Europe, but you take a big footy trip. Like, Mr. I've been to a couple of World Cups, a Women's World Cup. Like, yeah.
and look, and also don't forget the summer. Got Copa America coming up,
Mhm.
and I'm coming to see you, Stead, in
Yeah,
Atlanta.
man. I was trying to get my tickets, but it's still, yeah, you said it's still on pre-order, but I'm gonna work with the code you
No,
gave me.
no, it's general now. By the way,
Oh, it's general now? Okay. All right,
get
cool.
your tickets in. I'll be there. I got my hotel booked.
Yeah,
And
man.
then
We're gonna do this.
wifey and I are gonna go to Miami. We're gonna take her talent to South Beach. We're gonna watch Peru play Messi in Argentina. So that'll be
cool.
fun.
That'd
But
be
yeah,
cool.
All right, Rob.
have a good one, Jans.
All right, Rob. Good to
Great
see you,
guy.
brother.
So,
Dude,
a
man.
lot of good. Yeah.
Rob be having his fun, man. I love it, man. I love
wish
it.
I wish I could be him when I grow up.
I agree.
Even though I know
Absolutely.
I'm a couple of years older than he is, I wish I could be him when I grow up. But hey, um, yeah, it makes for some interesting times in the Bundesliga. I wonder what Xavi Alonso is going to do, because we've seen these guys before, and I just hope that he makes the right decision when it comes to taking the job, because I think, it's so easy for the next big thing in management to take that wrong next step,
hmm
and then it's all over. Just see Graham Potter.
Yeah, I was just about to say, yep. And we've seen it happen far too often. And, you know, I think
Even
though
to a certain extent, Xavi at Barcelona.
but yeah, absolutely. And look, I hate to see him go to Bayern. I would, just because, it's just more of the same thing that we're seeing, that as soon as someone pops their head out of the Bundesliga um mousetrap, all of a sudden, who picks him off versus Bayern? And so, you
The
know,
funny thing is, I actually think of the jobs that are on offer, that might be the best one for him.
I was just about to say that. I was about to say, but on the flip side, though, it seems like if he is going to take a top level job in Europe, Bayern, sadly, Bayern makes the most sense. It does. I mean, it's good that this Bayern run is going to end, and because now, in hindsight, I can look back, and of course, I always speak selfishly about these sorts of things, but I can look back and I can really marvel at the run Bayern went on. I mean,
Mhm.
it was absolutely extraordinary, and the run they've been on since the turn of the century has just been completely unprecedented in sport. And so the hope is that maybe the rest of the teams in the Bundesliga can close in a little bit on their dominance, but I can say that if Xavi does take that job and goes to Bayern, and Bayern is able to make a couple of key moves, it's not out of the realm to think they could just do this run all over again.
The other
Because
thing would be, if he can do that and they can make a couple of moves. If he goes to Bayern, there is no reason why he has to leave at any time soon.
right,
The only reason he would leave would be because he wants to.
right, and he can take a couple of those Leverkusen guys with him.
Um, I just think that there will be a wider berth for him being a Bayern guy
hmm
at Bayern than there necessarily would be at Real Madrid
Yep,
or
Barcelona.
Liverpool.
hmm
He's not a Barca guy.
hmm
I don't see where that one works for him.
hmm
I mean, he's not a Barca guy insofar as he never played at Barcelona. He didn't come up through La Masia. He was a Real Madrid player. Like, I
Yeah,
just don't see where the Barcelona um faithful are going to embrace him, and that, which means that he's going to have an even tougher time.
hmm
And if you think that the politics, if Rob says, like, being the manager of Bayern takes a lot of politics, man, you ain't seen Barca.
especially now. Yeah, I just threw Barcelona out there because there's another big
Yeah, but
team
no,
in
I
the
mean
Europe
that
that
is
could be looking for a coach. I mean,
but they've said that they would be interested in him, and I think that Bayern is a better job, is the best of the options.
mhm.
I think Barca is the worst.
Yeah.
I think he would ultimately be set up to fail from the get-go. And it would take one presidential election at Barca for him to be out on his butt.
hmm
With the financial constraints that they're in, he's going to
hmm
have to do wizardry with that. And I don't think that they're going to be able to sign anybody. And again, he is not a Barca guy.
hmm hmm
Like he, Xavi failed because in part he wasn't. He's a Barca guy, but uh, Laporta associated him with Sandro Rosali more than he associated him with himself, and ergo did not give him necessarily the support that he needed.
hmm
The politics at Barca are real and
Yeah.
they are cutthroat.
hmm
And Perez has been in charge of Real Madrid for a long time. And as long as they continue to be successful, he will be president at Madrid.
hmm
I don't think that they've had a presidential election. I don't think that they're going to have a presidential election. I don't think they're going to have a contested presidential election until he decides to stand aside.
hmm
Barca's
Yeah.
not the same way.
hmm
And the financial issues and the fact that they're struggling so much, I think that's going to trigger another presidential election.
hmm
And then, he could come in and be out. I just think that club is way, 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 way too unstable right now.
Yeah, the bigger question would be, would he even want that job in the first place? You know?
But I would be surprised. I
Yeah.
mean, anybody who takes that job right now, has to know what they're in for.
hmm hmm
I mean, we can talk about the issues and the instability at Manchester United and the financial constraints. Yes, I'm going to bring it around to Manchester United temporarily, but I don't think it has anything on what's going on in Barcelona. And were it not for the fact that that is essentially just going to be a two-team league because they have enough good players, it would get really, really bad there, really, really quick.
Yeah. And there's no reason to think that in a year, 2, 3, it couldn't.
They're still talking about they're going to have to sell multiple players off of that team to make their financial goals for next year, which means like players that they should have sold Frankie de Jong a long time ago. They should have made him go to Manchester United when they were offering him that money, but he didn't. They're almost absolutely going to have to sell him. But the problem is now, along with that, you're going to have to start selling some players that you might actually want to keep on.
Yeah, very
And
true.
part of the reason is because you bought all these players, because you didn't sell him and you sold all your TV. You didn't sell De Jong when you had the chance to. You didn't basically tell him, like, look, we love you to death. You gotta go.
You gotta go. Yeah. And there's nothing we can do about it.
Now you're looking at a place where you might have to sell a Gavi, even though you want that, even though you really don't want to. We saw them make that. What is that deal that they made with Artur years ago for Pjanic? Like, what was that deal? Just to balance the books.
Right.
And this is those years and years and years of chasing the Champions League with Messi when he was on the team,
Right.
and surrounding him with whoever you thought. Those one of the, I think, least understood, most slept on stories is just in how bad financial shape Barcelona are.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems to be the big crux of this whole situation is that Barcelona And I think the media, for that matter, has managed to cover this as minimally as possible without appearing like they're showing extraordinary favoritism towards the well-being of that squad, considering their global appeal. It's a huge issue, and it also, I think that people who are minimal followers of football are even remotely aware of the issue that's going on there. And I think that when it is discussed more, people probably won't be too surprised. People are aware. I just think that, as you said, it's not something that's being really talked about when it probably should be. And I could see La Liga even in themselves saying, you know, we prefer it because Barcelona's their appeal is very critical to the success of that league from an international and not just a domestic, but from an international perspective. Sorry, you're not going to have another team that's going to step into that role of Barcelona. It's just not going to happen. And I don't think that the powers that be in La Liga really want their league to become the Bundesliga. And I mean, no knock on Rob, but I don't think you can have. I mean, I think that's an issue. That's a big problem with the German league. I'm sorry, it is. It's a problem. You can't have one team. You just can't.
It's an
If you
issue with
have,
any 1 or 2 team league.
yeah,
Is that
even a
eventually
two-team league is still somewhat more palatable because you're going to have some level of rivalry. You got at least you got that because we talk about the Scottish league. Listen, I pay attention more to the Scottish league than I do to the Bundesliga. I do because at least you have maybe not so much because Celtic's a little too dominant, but when one team takes over completely, it's boring. It's just
that was
flat
the
out boring.
situation that was the situation that we had in Italy, which
Hmm.
has contributed to some of the issues that Serie A has.
Absolutely.
You know, in the time that it was just Celtic when Rangers had been relegated, it was a
Hmm.
problem for the Scottish League, and
Hmm.
it was a problem for Celtic because
Hmm.
they couldn't get games.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
the Bayern run of over 11 straight. I mean, it has been remarkable. It has
It
been
has. It's been
everything.
remarkable. It has.
Um, and we will see it come. We will most likely see it
Most
come to an
likely.
end,
Yeah.
or we will see an extremely interesting finish, a la what we saw last year.
That's true.
I think that
That's
has
true.
been the one thing that has saved the Bundesliga during this 11-year run is that it hasn't always been cut and dry.
Hmm. There has been some level of drama. You're right about that. And Rob has pointed that out too. There has been some
There,
level of
there,
drama.
there have
Yeah.
definitely been teams that have pushed, and most of the time it's been Borussia Dortmund.
Hmm.
Leipzig have a couple of times, but there have definitely been times where Bayern has been pushed
Hmm.
late into the season, and you had that court sort of drama going back. Last year was an aberration, but you've definitely had them be pushed, and they've had to come up with creative ways to keep winning.
Hmm.
You know, that said, our favorite league, the Premier League, is basically a 1 team league.
It's turning into it. Absolutely. It's turning into it. And the sad thing about that is, you know, the the points issue with Everton and everything like that, us fans of football are watching this, and the hope is that Man City get docked some points just to even the playing field a little bit. It's unfortunate, but that's kind of the way I'm sure a lot of people are feeling about it. And
Well, let's
it's
bring in
it's
um, Professor Matt and Chelsea Mike because
mm,
I'm sure they're going to have something to say about that.
mm,
The fact that the Premier League, because we've all had teams at points in time that have run into the Man City buzzsaw. I mean, it is Liverpool, Matt, that are the only team to break up that run in the last 6 years. I would say that as long as Pep Guardiola is at Man City, they're the Premier League is Man City and everybody else. Now, this year, it's Liverpool right now. Liverpool's leading the league. They've got a great team. They've got the emotion of playing for Jurgen Klopp, Matt, but they've also got injuries. Arsenal, again, they're there or thereabouts. But instead, do you really think that they have the horses now to keep up with a Manchester City squad that is now ahead of them?
No, especially when every Arsenal fan was basically saying you have to take full advantage of the fact that they are injured right now. You have when De Bruyne was out and Holland was a little shaky, and you had I don't remember his name, but he had a red card suspension. You had to jump in there. Yeah, you had to jump in there and take advantage. And then you lose to West Ham and Fulham. Sorry, that's it. You're done. You're done. If you can't win when they're defeated, if you lose a couple of games, which is not uncommon for any squad to do in the Premier League, to maybe have a couple of weeks where things just don't go well for you. But when you have a team like City in there, and that was your shot. So if you miss that, you blow your shot.
Let's not make a mistake. All three teams have 18 wins.
Oh, I understand that, but
all three
Arsenal
teams
still have to
18
play.
Wins.
Arsenal still have to play City again.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've seen this. We've seen this movie before. And so, like, yeah, all it is confirming what you're already saying.
Matt, you're the league leaders. They're ostensibly competing for a quadruple, not the quadruple. Klopp ran his kids out against Southampton in the FA Cup. They won this weekend. We will, in a second, get into the discussion of winning the Carabao Cup with kids. I think it all goes the same way. Yes, I can see in my monitor. You can't see it on
Sorry,
TV
Chelsea
for
Mike.
watching Chelsea Mike's reaction to this in the eye roll. And Mike, I will defend you on this one. Matt, we talked and you said you think if they can come out of this with two trophies, it's a good season.
Yeah, in comparison to last year, which was an absolute disaster. And again, it's strange with Klopp leaving at the end of the year, but in effectively year one of a reboot, uh, two, maybe three trophies, I think would be good and realistic. And it's funny, you were talking about why the Premier League is devolving into, the Bundesliga West. I think it's the league that's the one trophy I don't think we can win for the same reason Stead said we didn't take full advantage when they were wounded. We do have to play them again in the league in 2 weeks. Some of the senior players will be back, but certainly not a full contingent. And look, even when we were fully healthy, I didn't think this squad as currently constructed was a league-winning squad. Could we win cups? Yeah, sure. But the league, no. But
then what stops City from winning another treble?
City.
Pep going space brain or a long-term Rodri injury, because I'll keep it real. I think he's actually the most important piece.
I agree.
De Bruyne is.
But Rodri was out too during that stretch. Rodri was out. He was out too. So that was the chance. Yeah.
Like without him, they actually do have problems. But with him, everything is solidified, and De Bruyne and the other midfielders can do the kind of creative stuff they do. Because let's be real, he's their only bona fide six. I mean, I guess Kovacic could kind of do, an impersonation, but that's a big drop off.
does it really matter though? Like Pep has effectively won the war on fullbacks and is now starting 4 center backs. I'm believing at some point in time he's going to want to go to 5.
Or get 5 on the pitch and play them in weird places where you don't expect them to be. Uh, but no, I mean, that I think is the only. There'd have to be a rash of big injuries, or again, Pep channels the 2022 Champions League final and just
Out
consistently,
coaches himself.
yeah,
Yeah.
get space brain, yeah, Sputnik brain.
There is going to be a certain amount. Well, they've avoided, but there is the possibility for a certain amount of again fixture congestion coming up because they were at the Club World Cup. That's a lot of games that these guys are going to end up playing over the course of the season. We talked about the fact that some of them had injuries and have missed. But it is ominous when we talked about Erling Haaland not firing and then he comes back in an FA Cup game and scores 5 goals.
Yeah.
Now, my question might have been, did he need to be on the pitch long enough to do that? But yeah, that was a statement of purpose. Let's go back to the weekend. Another cup final match between Chelsea and Liverpool that goes 0-0 through extra time. The only saving grace that we have, or into extra time 0-0. The only saving grace that we have this time is it didn't go to penalties. Liverpool come out 1-0 winners on a late Virgil van Dijk goal. The narrative coming out is Liverpool won with kids against Chelsea's billion-dollar squad, even though, as I pointed out, the average age of Chelsea squad to start and end the game was actually younger than Liverpool. So it's not that Liverpool won the game with kids. It's more appropriately, Matt, that they won it with academy players,
Yes.
some of whom you probably didn't know and didn't expect to.
I think a good way to think about it is cheaper kids.
Homegrown kids.
Yes.
Now, before I turn it over to you two to fight this out while I just watch Jerry Springer style, I think that says more about the academy system at Liverpool, the fact that Klopp has enough to that in the tank that he can do that in that game and against Southampton. I will be incredibly surprised if he does that against Manchester United in an FA Cup quarterfinal. However, he may do it. Then I will have more commentary on Eric Ten Hag, who I know will play a full-strength squad against Liverpool's kids if Manchester United then turn around and lose.
Are you bracing yourself for that possibility?
Being a Manchester United fan over the course of the last 10 years has been coming up with the most absurd worst-case scenario that you can humanly possibly come up with, then bracing yourself and then wondering what the hell happened because something else entirely more ridiculous that you could not have comprehended was what actually happened. So anyway, like I said, don't think he will, but it does say something about the fact that he has enough depth that he feels like he can do this and that they can actually get through these things. Because we talked about it with the last time when they had the treble in their sights, or a treble in their sights, and won the league, but ended up messing out on some of the other, because the squad depth just wasn't there.
And the youngsters that we did have or sort of relying upon, we've dug very deep in the barrel. I mean, when Jaden Downs came on in extra time, both my wife, who was sitting next to me, and my aunt, who was watching from, North Jersey. One said that the other texted me, who the F is Jaden Dans? And by the way, he shall now be known as Afro Man because that's the only way I could describe him. Could also be you, but
I was waiting for the comment. I'm like, you're calling somebody Afro Man, and this thing is
the
blocking.
he's the guy with the Afro. So, but 2 years ago, even the more, let's say, seasoned youngsters like Jones, and I came on this show and said this, I thought he needed to go out on loan because my trust levels weren't particularly high. I'm not certain if Klopp's was either. I think what we saw on Sunday, if it wasn't for as many injuries, these guys wouldn't have played. And this is sort of an anomaly. But it's a good sign, it's a healthy sign that there are trust levels. A lot of these kids didn't miss a beat. And I'll keep it real. And this is not a knock on Chelsea. I think it's the observation that I sort of had. I know we talked a little bit about this off air. It's what you saw on Sunday was the differences in the two projects. And one has been up and running now for this club's 8th or 9th season. And Chelsea, this is, effectively year one. So, I'm interested to hear what Mike has to say on the subject. But no, that's one major positive to come out of this is, yeah, I'm legit. I'm my trust levels in terms of the depth and the academy, which, let's be real, even just a couple of years ago, we were saying, geez, had Liverpool really produced that much young talent? Is a lot more solid this go around than it was 2 years ago.
All right, Mike, take it away.
So let me provide you a counter narrative to this. Here's the thing.
Nothing less is expected, my brother.
Those youngsters lost the match. They lost the match. The decision to put them in at the end of the game was a disaster. And the only thing that saved Liverpool, the whole narrative from why did Klopp put these guys in? What is he thinking? Is Chelsea's complete and total inability to score goals in crucial moments. The Liverpool did not win the Carabao Cup. Chelsea lost the Carabao Cup. They blew their opportunities. They had absolutely, the stunning chances in the last 15 minutes to put it away, not to mention Cole Palmer's sitter that Kelleher made a good save on in the first half. And to me, the man of that match was Kelleher. He was the player of the game. He saved them. But Conor Gallagher, who is not one of these young guys, he's not a 20-year-old, has two stellar opportunities to win the match in normal time. Both on plays where the Liverpool defense had been absolutely cut up and destroyed. And Conor Gallagher can't find a way to put the ball into the back of the net. It was horrible to watch as a Chelsea fan because we had the cup. The cup was in our hands. They're putting in these guys. Those guys were not good enough. They got beat. But for some reason, in extra time, Chelsea decided to take the foot off the gas, which is the question has got to be absolutely why. We were taking it to Liverpool over and over. And I mean, if the argument is we can't sustain that, and they said after the game, some of the players said that they wanted to play for penalties. Never play for penalties.
Never play for penalties.
For one thing,
Never
I have
play
been
for
watching
penalties.
Chelsea Liverpool my whole life. And Chelsea, Liverpool, and penalties is not good for us. It does not work out well in the end.
No.
But secondly, give your all. Give it all.
Well, this is what I didn't understand about Chelsea's tactics, though, is because look, Chelsea has wallowed in 10th and 11th place this entire season. Success in the league is not going to happen. Chelsea is having their down year, which Chelsea has every now and then. And I think every real Chelsea fan like you is going to be like, look, yeah, I can get frustrated. I can, beat the brow of my team, but these seasons happen. They just do. And when you look at Chelsea's history over the past 20 years, you have a dip, then you come right back up and you're dominant again. And so the fact that you're in a cup final, the fact that you made a cup final in a season like this, you have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. So why would any player or manager for that matter say, let's get this team of kids to penalties when they haven't really been pressuring you in that sense throughout the game is completely idiotic to me. I mean, when you said Chelsea lost that game, that was one of my first thoughts was like, it's funny too. Matt, I'm gonna let you comment on this, but it seems like after the game, Liverpool almost looked surprised that they won.
It was so what Mike presented, we got outplayed the entire second half. And I would narrow it down further, Mike. I would actually argue Conor Gallagher probably lost you the cup. I mean,
I'll take
he had
that.
three outstanding opportunities. And I was just like, why did he what was that all about? But again, and it was the tactics, but particularly in extra time, because it was taking the foot off the gas. I have a question, Mike, and maybe you could answer this question. Why bring on Chalobah that late too? Is he a particularly good penalty taker? That to me was like, oh man, he's going to park the bus.
I don't know how good a penalty taker Trevoh Chalobah is.
Okay.
It might have been for that.
You would bring on a center half that take penalties.
Yeah, no. Well, every now and again.
Well, you didn't want Conor Gallagher having to take one.
But it was.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact that we had gotten to extra time, I was fortunate because going in, we were talking beforehand, I wasn't feeling all that great. And then when Gravenberch went down, I was like, well, Jesus. But yeah, we got thoroughly outplayed for most of that second half. And the fact that it got to extra time and bad mentality, strange tactics, I don't know. I'll say this though, and this is gonna sound like a weird take. I think for Chelsea though, and instead you painted the kind of picture of the season they're having.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a weird way, if there is a positive coming out of this, it's because last season we saw Man United with a project manager, at least that's what Eric Ten Hag was at the time, a project manager, win this cup. And that's where I think the expectations and the disconnect between what Man United actually was supposed to be and what was like unrealistically expected of them, that's when that shift happened. That's my read.
Let me just, Chelsea fans are different. We are not like other fans in the world. The Abramovich era has taught us that if, you're not sitting right on top of the league all the time and winning every game, it's time to fire the manager. And there's
but see, that's that's sort of like my fear, because it's funny. I don't think you can judge Graham Potter as a manager at Chelsea because he inherited somebody else's players.
I don't have a problem judging Graham Potter.
But
he is a bad manager.
I
He's
can't.
a very bad man.
But it's funny. See, this season, it's Chelsea. Chelsea's been uneven as hell, but like they've played better football under Poch. And I think if you understand, okay, this is a extremely young team. This is a new manager trying to instill because it's not just, oh, Klopp has had these years to work on the academy. We have an ideology, we have an identity. Chelsea is building that. I in a way, I think not getting the expectations because let's say that they did win. So your league form's crap. Next, summer transfer window, you spend even more money. And then what, you fire Poch in 3 weeks when you know, you only have 2 points? Like, or again, the connection between what is actually going on project and the top, which I think was the issue at United. Because I think the ownership told Tim Hogg, well, you won something, so you should win more now. When really the timeline that's really not how that timeline should have worked. Uh so I don't know. I'm wondering, Mike, your sort of feelings about that because I was thinking about that and I'm like, well, maybe if the Chelsea blue favor the delusional side of your fan base gets droned out, you know, maybe not having overwhelming expectations is a good thing, not a bad thing. Maybe this is sort of a reality check, like this is a project. We're still working on this.
I don't. I think it probably would have been more positive for Poch from a fan base perspective if we had won. It would take some of the pressure off of him because now every week in the Premier, playing Brentford this weekend. Well, what if we draw? Oh, Poch out. I mean, it's our fan base is absolutely ravenous. Their bloodlust for managers is um it's insatiable. And it's weird because again, it's the Abramovich era taught us like there's absolutely no accountability on the players. Whereas last year, our players were just not there. They they weren't there. And it should have been like all these players, like Mason Mount, get out. You're like not doing well. Kai Havertz, go away. You're not good. Like you're not. It's not that you're not good. You're not even trying. So there's zero accountability for the players amongst our fan base. It's always on the manager, and I think it would have taken pressure off Poch so that they could build what they're trying to build. Because as Mike mentioned in the intro, the Chelsea team, yes, they're worth millions, but they're really, really young. And the vision of the project is it's not just about winning this year and then, spending 300 million this next summer and winning next year. It's about putting together a core of people who can sustain that in a more economical sense for the club, but to also have something that's built upon as opposed to purchased and then the cycling in and out managers and players over the last 5 years has been to our detriment. We haven't won anything since we won the Champions League. So I mean, we're getting into a drought, and we can't just keep spending billions and billions and new manager and then new guys and new there has to be some vision from someone at the club, and I think they're trusting Poch with that. But you've got to understand that these guys are young, and young players are more moody. They're more susceptible to the outside pressures and stuff. A crowd at Wembley, even. So you have to take that into consideration. But they need some consistency somewhere in the club. But I don't like the fans. The next all right, they're not firing Potch. The next target for the fans is Bowley. And, really rich people don't like to hear bad things about themselves. So, I think that it would have been better for us as a fan base to just get one something for now. And then, maybe at the end of year 2 of Potch, if we don't get another one, well, now it's time to deal with it. But no, our fan base is a little bit more ravenous than you might think, man.
Mike, you brought up a good point, which is that winning this year might have taken the edge off of something. Because the problem is right now, yes, you are still in the FA Cup. Yes, you still have an avenue to win silverware. Once it was a tight game against Leeds.
Yeah. Oh, and who can score on Wednesday, but he can't score on Sunday? Conor Gallagher. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, well, you also have Christopher Nkunku and Nicholas Jackson, who are a combined $400 billion worth of striker who can't seem to score either. The point being, they still have an avenue, but once that avenue is removed, you're left with the reality that this is a team that is currently sitting in 11th place, that has won 10 games, drawn 5, and lost 10 this season, and is currently off 9 points, albeit with a game in hand, behind a Manchester United team that we all sit and say is very disappointing this year.
You're more disappointed, I think, than a lot of people are. I think they're par for the
I'm
course.
actually not that disappointed. I just think that the expectations were a little bit higher from them based on what happened last year to be struggling as much as they are in this year. And then I look at it and I say, well, you as Chelsea had all these players come in, and a new manager in Poch. My expectations would be that you were challenging for Europe, not languishing down in 11th place, trying to stay in the top half of the table. And when you strip away the cup competitions and you don't have that avenue anymore, you're left confronted with the fact that, hey, we may not be in Europe again next season. And that wasn't what was supposed to happen. So winning this would have at least taken that pressure off of him, because you will at some point possibly have to deal with the fact, like, this season hasn't been good. There have been issues beyond the players being injured, with them saying, like, the reports around the team and the discontent is not positive. You have players complaining that they don't feel like Poch is giving them enough tactically, that they don't know what to do when they're going into games. You have high-priced players saying that they're not exactly happy and they would like to leave if they can. Guys that you just bought, Enzo Fernandez, last season, saying like they want out now and they're dissatisfied with the last place contract. Bowley may come to a point where it's like, I've got a choice at the end of the season. It's either Poch or it's me, and I've written all these checks. And the other issue, not to pile on, is, the war chest ain't going to be next year what it is this year.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, first of all, I think part of the entire plan of this is eventually they have to get back into Europe to have the money to pay the salaries, and stay in financial fair play compliance. I mean, that's going to be a big part of it. Yeah. And but I said at the beginning of the season that you asked, what's a good outcome this year for Chelsea? And I said Europa. I mean, that was the high bar of my expectations. Yeah, no, I don't want to be in 11th. I think that with the amount of talent we have, we should at least be in seventh. But honestly, coming into the beginning of the year, I didn't think we were going to be better than Manchester United. I think Newcastle's having a very disappointing season. We're pushing on them. You know, there's a lot of disappointment to go around. I think there's still time in the season, in the league season, to save some face. I do think they have to be up around seventh, really, to consider a success. But you know, at the same time, my expectation. I know other people. I'm not speaking for the entirety of the fan base, who, as I've mentioned, are ravenous and need titles now. But my expectations honestly weren't really that much higher than this because, again, the youth, it has to build. And, you know, again, they need consistency. They need consistency. I don't think Enzo's going anywhere. I don't think I don't think Caicedo's going anywhere. I think people who are going places are like Gallagher. I think Reece James, he's been injured most of the season. You know, it might lose his place. Chilwell, and you've got to remember though, Chelsea. You know, you mentioned today talking about loans. Chelsea still has guys out on loans that they can sell, like Hakeem Ziyech and Romelu Lukaku and Kepa. They're all still property of Chelsea, and they can get funds from them, even if it's at a cut rate. So, I mean, I'm not worried about our money. I'm not worried about the project yet. But you've got a Philadelphia basketball jersey behind you there. You know, you can only trust the process for so long. And I, as a Celtic fan, am mocking you for trusting it for too long. But
Hey, look, we've got a injured all-world player on a team in a game that requires 5 players. Listen,
yeah. But that's, so to me, Chelsea this year, if we finished eighth and ninth, I don't think it's a disaster. But by next year, it's got to be, you know, fourth, fifth lowest, or else the project's a failure, and we need to start revisiting.
and by the way, I would like to point out, technically, it's not a Sixers jersey because it's a
I
Wilt
said a
Chamberlain
Philadelphia
Philadelphia
basketball jersey.
Warriors jersey. So there was no process there. You had Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain was the process.
Here, just take the
And he
ball.
couldn't beat Bill Russell, so
Yeah, huh?
and he couldn't beat Bill Russell, so
But look, I'm not
Neither
getting
can
into that.
anybody else, for that
No,
matter.
neither can anybody else. I mean, um, I know we only have a couple of minutes left, and I want to give you a chance, Mike, to update us on the lower leagues because, in particular, the bottom half of the championship looks really, really interesting right now because I think there's 9 points separating Sheffield Wednesday in 23rd from Plymouth Argyle in 15th. I really wanted to talk about the loan system and why it's broken. So, Matt and Mike, I'm going to get in touch with you to see if we can do a short where we can just sit down for about 20-30 minutes and talk about the failures of the loan system. Because, Mike, you brought it up with the guys that you guys have got out of loan. I was thinking about listening to Jack Rodwell in the episode of Sunderland Till I Die, and him talking about how the loan system failed him. And I really want to go into more depth with that. So I'll tease a short that the three of us will put out in the next couple of days, maybe over the weekend. But Mike, I want to give you a chance to talk about the lower leagues because, as I said, it's a little bit interesting at the top. There's a little bit of separation from the teams. You know, Ipswich is really pushing Leeds. We may still see them, but only one of those two teams is going to get automatic promotion. Leicester looks like they're going to win. Is net on the win, but down at the bottom half, man, that is starting to look interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. Actually, I think, oh, by the way, um, just for lower league fans everywhere, season 3 of Sunderland Till I Die is out on
I
Netflix.
just said
Yeah,
that, and we've
we
already
talked about it
that.
earlier today. Yeah, I said I'm
Yeah,
gonna wait. I'm
so
gonna wait till I get a good 12-hour span at home, and I'm gonna binge watch that. It's about a 12-pack Guinness. It's gonna be fantastic.
me too. I've got the weekend set up for it. But so to me, the most interesting game this weekend won't be on TV, unfortunately. But it should be. It's getting into March. It's starting to get into relegation time. But is Sheffield Wednesday versus Rotherham? To me, Sheffield Wednesday needs to win this match, and I'll tell you why. Rotherham are dead. I'm calling it. I'm calling Rotherham out now. Rotherham are in League One. It's not official.
Well, they
but
have 19 points to Sheffield Wednesday's 32.
right. Sheffield Wednesday needs to beat Rotherham to. First of all, Sheffield Wednesday won their last 2. They need to do it to keep up the momentum, but these are the matches that they have to win if they're going to stay up. Interesting to me at the bottom of the table here is teams like Huddersfield and Millwall, both of whom last season and the season before were in the playoffs or pushing for the playoffs. In fact, very, prophetically, in my absolutely terrible way, I asked why not Millwall. Well, this is why not, because they're not good enough, and they are really getting into the danger area here. And we also got QPR down there. So the bottom half of the table are not the teams like Plymouth Argyle, just up, you sort of expect to be around, but they're, former Premier League teams and teams that have been regularly in the top half of the championship for the last couple of years. They weren't, most of them. Huddersfield is kind of up a little bit. They've been doing poorly most of the year. Obviously, Wednesday and Rotherham have been poor this year, but the Millwall, QPR, Stoke just sort of a fade down. So I think over the next 3 to 4 weeks, who starts to go down through the table now is who it's they're the true team that's going to lose. It's an interesting time. March in the championship, the relegation hunt is picking up.
All right. Yeah, going to be real interesting. I mean, that's what there's just such a stratification in the championship now game right now, and I'm all there for it. I will say there are a couple of Ireland fans who are big Leeds fans, and it makes for very interesting conversations at the rugby matches because by nature we hate each other, but then we have the Ireland rugby thing in common, so we can't necessarily argue with each other too much. But then there's the Leeds Man United thing. It gets very, very, very interesting. Anyway, gentlemen, we got to wrap this up. It has been a boatload of fun. I'm going to tease a couple of shorts coming up. We're going to get together, Stead, real quick and put together a something on the Six Nations. Either you and I, or I'll just do it myself.
Mhm.
Matt and Mike will get together. We'll talk about the loan system. And I'm just putting this out there that none of you other three know. I reached out to our good friend Lee down in Tampa, the Nottingham Forest fan, and we're going to try and get him to talk about Forest and points deductions and how that is all going, because I want to have a just a more focused conversation with him about that. So we got some potentially good content coming up. Mike, I know that you're going to stick and give us some more information on the lower leagues. Matt, we're due for some more updates on Eastern Europe and even some more history if we can get it in there. So even though we haven't been regularly on the flagship show, we're going to have some good stuff coming up for you. Stay tuned to the Too Many Guys Soccer Show channel. Stead revealed next week, and I'm kind of scared about this for our next show. He may try and live stream that, but let me know because I got to get my hair did.
Soon
I
we
gotta
both,
get
my
my
man.
yeah, I gotta get my hair did if we're gonna do that. That could be very interesting.
Yeah.
I want to send a big shout out to a guy who wasn't on the pod today, but Eve's the bartender. I was drinking in one of his Rob Roy's at the beginning of the show with Glenn Fittich. It was awesome. Thank you. That is going to be my new good go-to show drink.
Mhm.
But gentlemen, we had a lot of fun tonight. I want to thank Byron Robb, the world traveler. We're going to miss him next week if we record again. He's going to be out of town over in Europe. But coming on, talking about the Bundesliga, what the situation at Bayern Munich, Thomas Tuchel's future, and what's in store for Xabi Alonso. Of course, Chelsea Mike and Professor Matt for giving us a recap of the Carabao Cup final and all the other stuff that you guys give us during that roundtable. I can't forget producer Stead, keeping the trains running on time. I'm going to send another shout out to our good friend Celtic Cam, who I believe is actually in the CIA, as he has revealed that he works in security and is somehow out of country for at least next month. But we will catch up with him at some point in time. But, gentlemen, it's been great. So, for Byron Robb, Chelsea Mike, Professor Matt, and of course, producer Stead, this is Mike. This has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. We did all right this week. We'll try and do better next week.